On LinkedIn, typically what I do is I do a write-up after a couple of days. I try to let things settle down, and so I understand what all the responses were and what people were saying. So I then do a write-up, we recap, and then anyone who would like a recording, if they just mention that they'd like to get the recording, Debbie will make sure we get it to you. Debbie monitors my LinkedIn conversation, so she can share anything with you. And if you'd like, for those that have just joined, Asa and Abdulaziz and a few people, you can ask on those LinkedIn posts, please could you share something on data strategy or whichever ones we have, and we'd be happy to share that with you. We're happy to chat online and LinkedIn if you have any questions. Okay, so the courses for February, we're doing a whole lot of training with the NDMO at the moment. We've done some data modeling, and what we're doing right now is our typical Thursday slot, but because Veronica and I are flying tomorrow to Jeddah, we've had to bring it one day early. We didn't want to miss out. So this will be instead of the Thursday slot. Next week is an exciting week with big data, the user group meeting, and another round of DMMA discussions. We will be talking about it for 4 weeks, the different aspects of DMMA. I also have lots of sample Excel and Power BI, so if you want it, please ask and we'll share it with you. No problems with that. And then every Friday at I think it's 10 o'clock Saudi time and it's 9 o'clock. Oh, sorry, it's 10 o'clock South African time and 11 o'clock Saudi time. And you can ask any questions about the CDMP exams, how to register, whatever you'd like to know, how to prepare, whatever is appropriate. We try to help you there so you can have a specialized question and answer session. We've got some fundamentals coming up in the month of March, 16th and 19th of March and 17th and 20th of April. Those training is online via Teams. So if you're comfortable to join that would be great. And then we have some specialist training. We've got this specialist training that seems to be working very well, where we have 3 days of data governance, and then we go into 2 days of data quality. Okay. And if you'd like more details, please give Debbie a shout, mention it in LinkedIn, and we'll be sure to contact you and help you with that level of training. Okay, so both of them are there to help you certify on the CDMP exams for data governance and data quality specialist exams. So it's 1 week where we do everything. Okay, we then also have data modeling. This week it will be done with Veronica. But it comes from Steve Hoberman's course on data modeling masterclass, and we found it's a fantastic course. Even though it mentions the fact that it's a masterclass, it helps people that haven't had any modeling training to go from the basics. Veronica always likes doing that, almost from building a data model from an Excel spreadsheet with all books involved, all the way through to some complex dimensional models and relational models. Okay, so if you'd like to join, that would also be okay. All right. Any questions on the introduction? Anything before I go on? Okay. Fantastic. All right. So now let's go to the presentation for today, and we are continuing our session with why bother. Why bother? Not to worry about the mentee. We've seen that last time. These were some of the questions that we had and some of the answers. What do you feel should be in the business case? And this I find is quite important in terms of actually setting the tone, understanding with the executives why it's so important to them to be able to measure what we are talking about. Okay. So then if we go on, this was the analysis, and then we had basically a breakdown of a mind map of all the different important areas of a DMMA. And I'll just take you through some of these things. What we have to do is, first of all, answer these core questions. So I like to have 4 questions. Let me just get that going and see if I can show you some more details. These are the core questions, and this is where we're going to be focusing today. The first question is, what's happening with respect to your data management maturity within an organization? And then the important next message is to say, why do we believe we're still at the level that we're at? Why do we believe we're operating in this scenario? What are our challenges that we need to overcome to achieve a better outcome on maturity and to improve where we're at? And then the next question is, what should we do about it? Where do we go from here? And there it's about developing an action plan. Is it about communication? Is it developing skills? Is it developing consistency of how we do things? Because that's an important point. For me, it's always critical to get to that defined level, that we are all doing things with shared understanding and shared behavior. And once we've got to 3 and we're getting better, I believe it's all about knowledge management, and our change management starts to disappear into the background. And then the next question is people saying, well, when will we be ready? If we set a target to be at a level 4 or a level 3, depending on it, how long is it going to take to get there? What are the risks involved, and what are the required improvements? And then the last question I like to ask is, what don't we know? So what is it that we're unaware of that's happening within our departments, that's happening outside, and we're not seeing the full picture? And hopefully we can understand this with and get a better understanding. So what I like to do is to say we've got to answer these core questions, and we've got to provide the correct answers to the business so that they feel that we really understand the challenges they're facing, especially the departments, in terms of achieving the maturity that we require. And the next set of areas that we go to is, if we can answer those properly, we get the right answers here, ask the right questions, get the right answers, we should then be able to answer these 2 questions. And the first one is, are we capable of managing the data to meet the business requirements? Okay, so we need to be able to give an assurance to our business departments that we are capable, or we are not capable, and this is the action plan to become capable. What do we need to do? And that talks to what I like to refer to as technical feasibility. Technical feasibility, meaning that if you want me to do big data and all sorts of exploratory analytics, and I don't even know, and I can't even get my data quality right, and I can't even get my data engineering, my data integration right, well, then I think we're wasting a lot of time trying to pretend that we are able to do it. So what is it that we need to do? What do we need? What skills do we need to develop, and how do we need to solve this problem? And then it's not just about technical feasibility. There's also cultural issues and change issues that we need to be aware of. And then for me, what's important is saying, well, oh, yes, we may be capable, but how capable are we? So can we deliver a use case in 3 weeks, in 10 weeks, in 5 weeks? Can we meet this level of cadence that the organization needs to operate as to deliver the use cases that we are referring to? And then we'll then roll it back up, as once we have this proper understanding, it's all about providing these development guidelines, that the data management office is responsible for showing the business and measuring the business, building the capabilities, and making sure that we improve. This is a role of governance. Data governance is responsible for bad maturity or low levels of maturity. It's a governance problem. Okay, yes, there are areas, for example, where we do well. Typically, data security, we do well. There's a demand. People are forced to do that. But the other areas like quality, reference data, master data, all those areas, typically governance hasn't been paying attention and hasn't been ensuring that we do the right things. So then our purpose, we go to a higher level in terms of the mission and the vision, the mission, the mission and vision of DMMA is described at this level over here. So get shared understanding of where we are, make the appropriate decisions, get the alignment with the business. And so we want to go on. And this to me is what I feel is critical about doing a DMMA and then assessing the results and telling the story as to what the results are telling us. It's not just that you got a level 1.5. That is a fantastic answer, but why? Why did we get there, and what do we need to do to improve? Maybe I'll just pause there for anyone if they'd like to ask a question. People are pretty quiet at the moment, but any questions? Drew, anything from your side? Sorry to pick on you. No, I think he's gone quiet. He may not be listening. Ross, I know you.
I always listen to you. I'm always
Okay.
listening. I just can't get the bloody mouse to work to unmute.
Okay, I have the same problem.
No, it's all cool, Howard. I think those 5 questions are key to where do you even start.
Right.
So, yeah. No.
Fantastic.
Which one of those, by the way, would you use? Which one of those would you use to assess the level of competency of the people in those knowledge areas?
There's a fantastic question, and I'm going to get to that right now in terms of when we use what is and has happened. We use the DMBOK chapter 16 and 17, which is the operating model and the roles and expectations, Drew. So those new chapters that have been added in the DMBOK, they talk to how do you set up an operating model, who's got the mandate, who's got the roles, and then how do we have the roles and expectations of the people. So we talk to our things of what's our data people strategy, what the roles and responsibilities like. Do we know exactly who's responsible for what and where we're falling short? Hisham, in terms of it is version 2, 16 and 17 that talk about the operating model, the data management, organizational change management, data management, organizational roles and expectations, and then we have the federated model that gets addressed there. Okay, Hisham, have you seen that in DMBOK version 2? Okay, what I will do, part of the specialist exam, yes, it is part of the specialist exam. And Drew, just to share with you, this is my template that I use in my Excel template. Can you see this is the Excel template? And if I minimize all of the knowledge areas and I ask the questions, can you see I go data governance, data management maturity assessment, data management organization and role expectation. Okay, so that talks to my, and I think I've got 2 there that actually talks, if we can see there, it talks to, sorry, that's maturity assessment. If I open up here, it talks to these areas over here. Organizational role, okay, can you see it? Organizational role and expectation and organizational change management. So Drew, can you see we're talking key stakeholders? Yeah, what's the job profile? What's the inventory, people gap, building the case, business case, the framework, the resources, and the risks?
But it still doesn't talk to knowing that somebody's suitably qualified to take a lead in one of those knowledge areas.
Yes, of course. So what we do, for example, is we do have roles and expectations at a data governance level, and we have a job inventory as well. There's your operate data people gap that we build, and the framework and roadmap. So when we do a data people gap, it's basically saying these are the roles that I require for my data strategy, and these are the current number of resources that we have, and what's the gap between what we have and what we need.
Is there like a recommendation to use like a RACI matrix?
Yes,
in terms
yes,
of
definitely.
roles? Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
In your operating model with your role expectations, you definitely want a RACI diagram for every single knowledge area that you're involved in, and that you need to have that layout sorted out there. So what you can see is that I have all of the areas of the DMBOK, even the chapters that are not viewed, plus I've added data value realization, because I believe this is one of the areas that the DMBOK is missing at the moment, and we need to look at that as well in terms of the realization. How do we realize value? Drew, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I was just looking at chapter 16 of the DMBOK.
Ah, good, excellent.
We got load shedding, so I've only got one screen.
Okay, so this is, just to be more practical, this is a template that I'm happy to share with any of you. Okay, so for example, we build reference data. These are all the different elements. These are the knowledge areas that we have. Can you see the different knowledge areas? Data governance. I even assess the maturity of your DMMA assessment. Wesley, happy to share. Organization roles, organizational change, data handling ethics, data value realization. We come down to all the other areas, big data, data warehouse, and so you can ask yourself the questions there. These are, for example, the resolution on how to address certain priorities. We've got the risk ratings, and then I've got a mapping table to basically say that if your deliverable is at a 0-1, we believe you must fix it by communication, and your focus is awareness. So I've got a mapping from 0 to 0-4. We need awareness. Then when we go a little bit higher up to, and this typically at between a level 0 and a level 1, the comment is we are unaware. Okay. Then we get into desire and capability. So Drew, this starts talking about, do we have the right knowledge? Do we have the right ability? Do we have the right reinforcement of our people? And typically at a level 1, you're talking about tacit knowledge. It hasn't become explicit yet. We don't have all the principles, policies, and definitions defined. So we're going from completely missing in terms of knowledge management to tacit knowledge to explicit knowledge. And so I build this mapping to say, all right, this deliverable was at this level. Please, Mr. Data Governance, you need to focus on fixing this problem by looking at this, this, and this. Okay, build your principles, policies, procedures, and technology. Build your community of practice. Establish a operational business as usual. Then you're starting to operate at a level 3 of efficiency, effectiveness, and transformation. Yes, Hisham. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of this. Like towards, let's assume that this is the phase 1 of those questionnaire that we're going to start with any business. Do we need to visualize this so the business can understand exactly? Okay.
Oh yes. So this is sort of what we do, Hisham, in terms of visualizing it. And I'm going to talk to you today in terms of the different metrics. What I can show you is this is a template Power BI. And what it does do is it answers the questions. What happened by individual, by business unit, by organization, by business unit capability, by knowledge area, and by phase that we go through and we answer all these questions. Question 2, why are we here? What are our key challenges? What are our communication challenges, capability? Where are we battling? Which knowledge areas? What should we do? Okay, and then the next one is the roadmap in terms of how do we get there. Okay, and we do all sorts of stuff like, for example, let me just get you some examples there. Provide the different feedback. So what I like to do here is, in one of my columns in my Excel spreadsheet, I take comments in from the people. So there you can see I've got a target maturity level, current maturity level, evidence, and comments. Okay, and people can give me comments, and then I bring those comments in. Framework audit missing, the 5th one is missing. So I bring those comments in, and then I just show people in terms of what are we not aware of. As I'm saying, somebody is saying that we've got big problems with audit. Audit risks still need addressing. Framework audit findings, skills audit. This gives us a visualization of what people are telling us about what's going wrong.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
And issues,
Is this part of your generous sharing today, or that's part
Yes,
of
it
a
is.
course? Oh, amazing.
No,
Thank you.
We also putting together a 2-day practical course on how to fill all of these out and how to go about it. What we do find a lot is that sometimes you come in with a negative attitude, one of blaming people for not being there and things like that. And you have to be very careful and very sensitive about this. Some departments can get very cross for you allocating a certain level of maturity, and they believe they're higher, and then you've got to be able to explain why you're at these different levels and things like that. Okay, we'll share about the course and we'll share that. So here's big pain points. And then typically what I like to do is just link this up to all sorts of scenarios. What I also like to do is keep a progress chart in terms of where we are, who submitted it, who needs evidence, what are the different response details that I've got, and where the evidence is outstanding. So there's quite a lot of project management, because in some cases I interview 7 or 8 departments. We've got to know where they are, who submitted it. I try to avoid what I call groupthink. So I don't like to work with people in a big audience, because then some people sit back and those that are in the know will say, yes, 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 we got that. But then I'm sitting on the other side and people are saying, well, I've never heard about it. So we have a communication issue. And a level 3 is basically saying we have a defined way and shared common understanding. And my only way to measure shared behavior and common understanding is when I talk to each individual and I say, are you aware of this deliverable, this process, this procedure? Do you have any guidelines? Do you have any tips and tricks? How's data management, how's data governance helping you deliver this functionality? Okay. All right. So that's what it looks like. It's amazing. Then what I've also got as an example, and I'll just share with you the folder where we talk about also coming down to and I'll just share quickly. We not only do we answer these questions, but then what we like to do is then map them to have specific analysis about the different domains. So, for example, here's one on metadata maturity assessment. So what this is saying is currently I'm sitting quite low in terms of where I need to get to from a target point of view. These are the deliverables, define a metadata strategy. All of this comes from the DMBOK, all of these deliverables, all of these activities. Create a meta model, integrate a metadata model, and we're now sitting at this level. We want to reach a level 3, but 31% of our journey to a level 3. I use these ratios called distance to target. If a department says they need to be here, where are you? And here is another view of that to say, my metadata strategy on average is at a 1.8. My business user requirements is doing a lot better, 2.1, 2.3. And then, as you can see here, as I put these lines to say, this is our first order of importance. Second order, first order, and these are the ones that we should be going after. Okay, so we take it right down to the knowledge management area, and I've got these ratios. And what the distance to target means is that I'll measure you on a quarterly basis, a yearly basis, and then see how far you're progressing to what the head of department believed their target should be. So there's a question by Hisham saying, so what is the practice to get everyone together? Is it by business function? Yes. So Hisham, what I like to do is I like to look at the terms of reference in your steering committee, which of the departments are represented in that, and then I make sure that at least I have interviewed at least 2 people per department, and then of course I go to people like EA and BI and your more technical teams, and then see what their view is on data governance. And it's nice to have that mapping between the way the technical people see they're performing and the way that the business people believe those people are supporting them in their performance. Hisham, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now what I would also like to share is that below a level 3, if your organization is saying they're at a level 0, 0.5, it's very much of what I would refer to as a qualitative assessment, because I've got no numbers and I've got nothing to compare it to. Okay, so it's lots of times it's feelings, it's the way people understand what they're aware of. Once you get to a level 3, which means your procedures and that are defined, now you can start to get to a quantitative analysis in terms of where you are, in terms of getting from 3 to 4 to 5, how your improvements are happening. So you have this slight transition and you're in a very dangerous place below a level 3 because there's nothing defined. You've got minimal standards, you've got minimum amounts. So it's all about, are you in the know as to what's happening with the process, or do you know nothing about it? And so you have, in a lot of times, you have this black and white sitting there. The people that are developing the data quality principles and procedures, they're there, they know what's going on, but have they rolled it out and have they trained people and have they got everyone working on it? Whoa, that's a different story. So we have these different views and beliefs of what's going on by department, and it will be a business department view versus a technical view. I'm hoping that helps you understand a little bit better as well. Okay, so very helpful. What I do, for example, is there we go. And just to take you through a simple process. Okay, what I like to do is I do like to close everything when I start, and I say, okay, Mr. Respondent 2, I've got my interview with you. Okay, there are all my respondents. Can you see they're all collapsed there? And there are all my respondents. And I go through asking you the following questions. And I open up the first one, which is data governance. And say, okay, we have to develop a data governance strategy. Related to this activity are the following deliverables: data strategy, data governance strategy, data people gap, and what is this last one? Roadmap, and the roadmap that we've got. Okay, so because I started off with this organization and the head of the CDO, the head of data management said, we as an organization, we have to get to a level 3 being defined. I go by deliverable and I ask them what level do they believe they're at. Okay, so it's either unaware, I don't know anything, I haven't seen a data strategy. Lots of the times it is there, unfortunately, or it's ad hoc. And basically ad hoc is saying, yes, sometimes we do a great job, but it depends on who. If it's someone, that person, we know we're going to get fantastic results. If it's somebody else, sometimes it's flaky. Then repeatable, yes, we're starting to define a process, we're starting to discuss one, but it hasn't been agreed and used across everybody. Defined, standards are set, everybody's trained, we used across the organization. Managed means we've now started to get KPIs, optimizing, we now got improvement measurements. How much do we need to improve? And we go through each one with the person. It actually happens quite quickly. You think, oh, shucks, if I look at all of them, if I break them all down, we're talking about a total number of, no, that's 19, not sure why, 140. So we've got 140 questions. But what you'll find is that they actually follow after each other. So as an example, data governance is responsible for engaging in change management, needs a communication plan. And when people are talking to you about the communication plan, you're already picking up good ideas and understanding of where your change management is, your organizational change management. And then I also pick up maturing data management practices. If someone says, shucks, we don't do it, we've never done it, I said, okay, fine, I can minimize this and I can go quickly to data management maturity assessment, which is this one here, and I can mark you all at a standard level of being repeatable, as an example. Yes, Hisham.
Yes, like on an average, how long the interview process would take? Like, I know it might vary, but on an average, like, do do I
50
set
minutes.
50 minutes?
Around about 50 minutes. I can get it all done in an hour. The first ones are typically hard because in some cases I have to explain all of these DMBOK deliverables to the person. I have to give them examples. And this is something that I'm trying to work really hard at, is especially when you make it online and you can get people to do it by themselves. You need good examples and good descriptions of the activity and the deliverables and the benchmark. What is considered to be a level 3? This is the level of documentation I'm expecting.
Thank you very much.
So yes, that does take quite a bit of description and discussion. And it's actually quite nice because you're almost teaching them the whole of the DMBOK within that hour. You don't have the details, but you're saying this is the type of work you need to do. And so many times I get the answers to say, sure, I never expected that we needed to do so much work, and we may be producing 15, 20 of these deliverables. And so they start to see the scope that we're talking about. What I do is I do allow them to say to me, you know what, for this review, whatever we're doing, we have a scoping mechanism here. Can you see expected different levels where we can say, okay, we're not interested in these areas at this point in time, and so you don't need to ask those questions. An example of that, in some organizations we go, then they're not doing any big data, so we switch off all the big data questions. Okay, so it helps you just to reduce in some cases and then get a smaller set going through. Okay. All right, so let's go to Drew's question in terms of asking, how do we ask what has happened? Now, unfortunately, what I'm showing you here is an organization that's just had their first review. And that's why I've got what is happened, or what has happened. Now, the second review that you come in, you've already got the previous results. You've already got what the HOD or the head of the department promised was going to do. And now you can say, well, you know, you actually only increased by a 0.2, and we expected you to be at this distance. We expected you to move so far. Then the level of questioning is a lot deeper. And then what you can also do is, as soon as you get a longitudinal set of data, you can start estimating, shucks, if it's taking you 2 months to get or a year to get by 0.5 up, it's going to take you maybe 3 years to get to defined. And this is the challenge we're facing. So the more often you repeat this, the better your estimations and forecasting is going to get. And then you can also start saying, shucks, and I've had it in one situation where people start going backwards, where they get to a defined and then they stop using it or whatever it is, and that's also a pretty dismal situation. Okay, so just again to summarize those core questions: what has happened, what is happening, and we take that and break it down by knowledge area, by process, and by deliverable. And I think I may have had this discussion last time. The definition of a DMMA is the ranking of our ability to perform a process. And what I always find really hard with that statement is I can't quickly find any evidence of process execution, but I can find a lot of evidence about the deliverable and the definition on how to create the deliverable. So I always come down to a deliverable level, and then I roll my maturity up to a process level, an activity level. But the best way, and even when we do principles, policies, and procedures, and the procedure is, how do I create a deliverable? I have a standard for the deliverable, and I can compare with a deliverable scorecard, how are we performing according to that deliverable? I'm hoping that makes sense. What I find with lots of frameworks is that they ask you question at a capability and a process level, and I always find it hard to get evidence of that, of the execution of the process, because how many people are recording how long it takes to produce a conceptual data model? How many people are doing that? you are capable of getting to that level once you've got a shared understanding of the process. Okay, you then are capable, and then you should be collecting data about, oh, it took me 3 days to do the different steps in the how-to. I had lots of wastage here. I spent time waiting for people. Now you can start talking about that that process time and the wastage. But again, what I keep coming back to is, what is the improvement of the deliverable that someone else is going to need to use to achieve whatever they need to do in data management? Are there any questions there? So I'll just pause a little bit to see, maybe somebody else has got an alternative view. We do know that almost the DM box stops on the definition at a ranking of processes, not at a ranking of deliverables. Rita, yes. Yes, people do things without consciously analyzing why and what they are doing. They just want to deliver. Correct. Okay. Ahmed, I doubt people can calculate or keep track. I agree with you. And unless you have something that and a lot of knowledge management in place and a lot of project management, and then even project managers would say to you, okay, how long is it going to take to do this process? It's great, but you know what? I had to create 5 deliverables, and this one took me this time, and that one took me that time, and what's the quality of this, and what are my review gates? Interestingly enough, your data governance review gates are reviewing the deliverables. They're reviewing the output. Does the output meet the standards that are required? Yes, of course, they want to check to see why you took so long and what was your efficiency rating. But first step, right below, is, do I get my deliverables right? So, okay. So these are the questions that I would like to do. And if I can just finish question 1 today, that will be great. We can talk about the other questions. But this is the one that gives me my maturity level rating. Okay, this is the core one. By knowledge area, by process, by deliverable. Then these next questions are interpretations of what's happening. They start to explain to the business what's happening, what's the impact on the business, provided as input to planning. How do we focus? How do we resolve some of these issues? Okay. Question 1 feeds into question 2. The results come out of question 2 into question 3. Then I build a roadmap. Then I build the next one is to say, am I missing something? Am I not progressing because I don't understand certain areas? Okay. So these are the core questions that we need to answer. Let's go to the first question. Okay, so the first comment that I'd like to make, and this is a nerve-wracking one below level 3, because one time you take an assessment, you had a level 1. Next time it's a case of, nah, shucks, I'm not there. I'm actually at a level 0.5. And so you go backwards and forwards, and you have to have this urgent, big issue to get things defined and get them repeatable. Get it to a repeatable level. Let's try to get agreement on how we do things. Okay, so this is my comment, is you cannot actually measure your level accurately with numbers and data below a level 3. You're really just looking for people's feelings and understanding. So we do a qualitative assessment by department, by participant. I do like to have more than one participant, at least 2, to give me an alternate view. I may be dealing with a data steward that's just arrived and doesn't know anything about it. So I'm a little bit nervous sometimes of only talking to one person and only getting one side. But again, what I don't do is I don't talk to them together, because I then get this group think happening, and I'm concerned that the junior may say, he may wait until the senior responds, and then he'll just agree with the senior. But if the junior doesn't know about it, you've got a communication problem, you've got an awareness problem, you've got a training problem, you've got a skills problem. So be careful of letting the strong people communicate and talk and say, yes, everything's going well. You've got to be careful of that type of situation. A lot of your principles, policies, and procedures are about enabling the juniors, the people that don't have everything defined. It's about helping them get to a point where they know how to do the deliverables and they can create the deliverables. That's how you start to get consistency. It's not about talking to a really skilled individual and they're doing a great job, but they may not be consistent. They may not even believe they need to be consistent, but they're doing a great job and they're getting good results. So it's important to say that I'm not saying a level 2 or a level 1 doesn't mean saying you're incapable of doing it. You may have specialists that can do it, but if that specialist disappears, can your organization continue to deliver that level of quality? Those are risks and challenges that your business will face. Okay. So the grain of maturity that I like to start off at the deliverable, then you start averaging out to a process level, an activity phase, and a knowledge area. And I like to have three important questions in my Excel spreadsheet. What is the target level that we expect to get? What is the current level? And then we have an expected level that I get from the data governance team. So you can see here, my expected level is 4 for data governance, 2, 3, there's an expected level. So this is a commitment that data governance has given to the organization on where they are going to take the organization to. So those are the three measures that I'm referring to here. Current, where are we right now? Target, where would we like to be by the next time we do it to support decision making? Expected, what level are we as a data management office expected to be at? That, right? That's almost a commitment we are promising the organization that we will get to. Okay. So how do we then start answering this question, which is question 1? And here is the flow chart that I put together to help you get there. Yes. Let me see who's asking a question. Rita, I see you put your hand down. Would you still like to ask a question?
Yes, please, Howard. I was just thinking on your previous slide that it sort of looks like the high-level framework for the strategy going forward.
Definitely. So what you're trying to do, what I like to do is when I start dealing with my data strategy, I like to have a good understanding of my technical capabilities, and that helps me understand some of the business frustrations about the challenges they are having with data. So my data strategy is a SWOT analysis of the challenges business are facing with their data, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I do find lots of times is when I have these big interviews and stuff like that, they keep on complaining about quality. And I say, okay, I've got it. I know what the quality looks like. It looks something like this. Are you in agreement? Yes, we are. Okay, so let's assume that we have a good understanding or a handle on this with respect to our data strategy, and we will address it. We will address that technical part. Now, can we talk about the other problems you're facing with your business data? For example, I don't even have some of this business data. It's not there. And I'm battling to make certain decisions because I don't have that data. Does that answer your question, Rita?
Yes, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. So
before you move on, if you look at that other spreadsheet or the scorecard you're showing where the data governance was a 4 and security was 4, is there some way through is there some way through the maturity assessment that you can see, for instance, that I need to drive metadata first in order to do modeling?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I'll show you right now, Drew. I love those questions because I've got some answers for you. And let me try to just show you there in terms
That's why I asked them, Howard.
Thanks, you're just priming me. Nice, I like that. Okay, so let's look at this algorithm that I use in terms of doing a maturity assessment. I do the interviews by knowledge area, by activity phase, by process, by deliverable. And then I have my current maturity ranking. I refer to that as CML, Drew. And then I calculate what's called a departmental distance to target. So what is the target that the department wants to achieve based on their business requirements? And then how far am I away from that target? And what I like to do is I like to prioritize the ones based on this distance to target. Because what the business are telling me is in my strategy, I need to be at a level 4 to do this type of work, but I'm only sitting at a level 0 or 1. So guys, please, can we have some attention to meeting that target? The target's telling me it's designed by the department data owners. It's telling me what they want the data maturity level to be. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's good.
And I'll show you the priority. I actually do all of this in my Excel, in my Power BI. If I can show you that quickly. Can you see here? I've got using that algorithm. Using the algorithm that I've got. And please remember, this is my initial algorithm. I do sit with the project managers and say, this is what I've calculated. Using the distance to target, this is the level that I'm sitting at. I'm hoping you can see some of it to say, right, I've got a distance to target of 3 for this deliverable. Recognize data value. They weren't doing any of it. And they said they've got to show delivery, show value. So we've actually rated this value realization as high as possible. Can you see that, Drew?
Yeah, got it.
Is it making sense?
So yep, it does. Thanks.
So the business of setting the target, this is where they need to be. Currently, I'm here. I take the steer from the business in terms of dealing with their distance first, because it's distance to target. Then I deal with P2 deliverables, and I have a different levels of rating, and then P3 deliverables, and I'll show you in PowerPoint how I allocate this to the different periods of my roadmap. And then what I like to do is sit with the EPMO and say, okay, these are the different almost action plans or priorities, but how do we allocate them to different projects and give timeframes and things like that? But I like to go in to the EPMO with a set of what I believe the target should be, what I believe the prioritization should be. Sorry, not the targets. The business tells me what the targets must be. But I've got a calculation to have an understanding of my targets, of my roadmap. Okay. All right. Now I'm not sure why I'm not. Okay, fantastic. All right. So that's also part of the message. When will we be ready? How long is it going to take us? So we calculate that distance. So the first thing is we do the ranking. From that, we get our CML, the current maturity ranking. The department tells us the target, and then from that, I say target minus current maturity level gives me my distance to target, and target or expectation minus my current maturity level gives me my distance to expectation. And I really use this a lot from a burn down chart point of view. So my burn down would say, when I start off and my data value realization needs to be at a 4 and I'm at a level 0, my distance to achieving that target is 4, and I've got to hit this pace quite hard to get to where I need to be. Okay. Then I go into a level of aggregation. So now I start aggregating my data. I aggregate it across all the people for a department, and I aggregate it across everybody for a group level presentation. Okay. So we then start to get a more detailed value, a more detailed explanation at an average level. Okay. Those averages get a little bit hard because, for example, something like master data, that should be common across everybody. Depends on where you're starting. Master data, you have to use a different average. Okay. And what I like to do with master data, when it's been established, I like to take a minimum, not an average of all of the responses. What is the minimum perception of my master data that I have up and running? Okay, so here's the way I answer what is happening. Interview by individual, knowledge area, activity phase, process, deliverable. What's your current individual understanding? What's your distance to target, business data requirement, distance to expected, data office expectation. These are this is the elements that I'm getting through on that. Okay. Now, when I finish that, then I aggregate by department, an average of individual scores. I then aggregate to a group level, and then I aggregate to the organizational level. Okay, right on top, and that goes to the CEO or goes to the CDO, the executives that we're working with. And I wanted to show you something. I'm hoping that you're seeing all of these different ratings and things like that, and it works out very nicely. Here we go. We have a deliverable maturity. that rolls up to an activity procedure maturity, that rolls up into a data lifecycle maturity. What are we doing well at? Are we doing well at our planning? Are we doing well at creating data, storing, using, enhancing? Or that activity phase is really helpful to see where we are in terms of that. And then I roll up to a capability maturity level. But you can, of course, you can see all the different levels. What I do like to do when somebody tells me this, to achieve that half an hour thing, Hisham, 40, 50 minutes, they say, they're at a level 4. I say, that's interesting. Everybody else tells me that you're level 1 or 2. I ask them, fine, I'm happy that you believe it's a level 4. Please, can you give me evidence? Please show me a conceptual model. Show me the review of that conceptual model. Tell me the scorecard. Show me what's there. And if they don't produce the evidence, I discount that answer. I rule that answer out because I didn't get any evidence by the time I needed to produce it. I also do not give them more than 2 or 3 days to do it. Otherwise, they may quickly cobble something together and say, see, there it is. No, you've got 140 deliverables. I'm giving you maybe a day. You should be able to produce the evidence tomorrow. Does that also make sense? You've got to be careful of that game. Some people like to try to get the game going, and you have some challenges there. Okay. All right. There's a vetting process. This is my distance. And this is factors affecting the current rating. Please, this is important that you understand how different cultures will answer these questions. Okay. All right. So can you see here? I wanted to show you on the same organization, the same maturity. Look at what internal audit is telling me. Can you see? Internal audit is telling me you are nowhere. There are so many holes, you've got nothing done in this situation. Here, on the other hand, in terms of sales and distribution department, they believe they're at level 4. Okay, they think they're at this level 4. So what I then started doing is there was a really nice talk by Dr. Jonathan Fowler, and he gave me some clues in terms of why this is happening. And then I was able to say, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Those people that are controlling, they have a controlling culture, regulatory, internal audits, enterprise project management, they typically rate lower than what other people rate. Those people that have a competitive culture, they rate themselves higher. And those people that have innovation, they're sort of in between, they just want new things and stuff like that. And then we have the collaborative culture that are in the middle. They never say anything good or bad. They're just trying to get everything together. So culture has a massive impact on your results that you're getting. And that's how you can explain to the executives, how come we got a 4 and then a this and then that level? How are we getting to these different areas in the situation? Okay. All the evidence collection and tracking can be built into the data owner roles. Yes, that's certainly there. The data owners should be aware of the fact that they are going to have this repeating maturity assessment and we are going to call for it, and they're managing their artifacts and everything is well defined by the data owners. And they are the ones who set the target, and they are the ones that are going to help us convert the department or the areas or their data area. So what we've also done, Nisha, is we also bring in what we call a data subject area, and then we look at the maturity at the data subject area, which may refer to some master data or shared data. Okay, I'm hoping that makes any sense. And then this is part of the storytelling. Can you explain at an individual level, a department level, an organizational level? And then can you explain a department capability, current to distance? So this is what my Power BI looks like in terms of answering those metrics and those stories. What happened at an individual level? So here are all my individuals. What happened at a business unit level? What happened at an organization roll-up level? And here you can see in this scenario, I completed 16 interviews, but only 15 interviews were successful, meaning that I got the evidence that I need to get. This is the overall score at an organizational level. So yes, this is nice, but I also need to be able to come down to a business unit level and see how they feel things are happening. And then I bring in my distance to target by departments. And we can see here that some of the people believe that they are doing really well, and almost they've got a negative distance to target, means they're happy with where they're at. Thank you very much. And I'm saying, okay, fine. That is going to help me deprioritize that thing. It's going to help me have that different discussion. And a lot of times we were sitting at a security level, people are finding that they're happy with it, not a problem. But you can see the other ones that are big, for example, data governance has got a big distance to travel. And so we have these different views. Okay, and that's, and then we do it by capability and distance to target. So we can see here, data governance has got a long way to go. Data value realization has got 78% to travel, 58 on reference and master data, 41 on data warehousing and BI, that typically makes sense. Data handling ethics, 61%. Data security, they're very close. And document and content is sitting at 38%. So we can have these high-level discussions in terms of what's actually happening. Okay, so now maybe just to answer some of the questions, Hisham's asking, how easy or difficult is it to get buy-in from everyone, especially with different culture? It takes quite a bit of awareness in Hisham in terms of introducing this to the organization. We've been in some situations where some of the lead technical departments feel that it's a negative slant on how well they're doing. And one has to be very careful of the message that you send across to those people. They may get very defensive and they may not want to produce certain evidence and certain. What I did find is in this scenario, I was approached by the CDO, and the CDO says, I've got two departments that are always arguing and they always believe there are challenges, and they named certain people. And when I went to interviews with those people, I was expecting a lot of resistance. And so I tackled them slightly different. I engaged slightly different. And the nice thing about it was the person right at the end says, wow, this is so helpful to me. I can now understand where some of my challenges are. And JG may be around in another customer. As the business person left the door, the IT guy says, oh, shucks, I can see why I'm frustrating the business so much. Okay, so we have to be careful. And yes, some people are in denial. They do believe that they've got everything well defined, or they believe that nothing's happening. I saw that with one internal auditor. He said, they've got nothing. They've got nothing. They haven't done anything. Maybe that's because he was very vociferous at one point in time, and then data governance just stayed away from the person. And so he believes they've got nothing. And as far as his perspective is, they've got nothing and they're doing nothing. It doesn't mean that that's the real situation. Okay. Wesley asked, where will you put the documents mentioned you would provide early? You have load shedding. Sorry, you've probably disappeared. Okay. The ones who have nothing, the more defensive. Yes, Ahmed, 100% correct. And especially the ones that are sort of running technical departments, for example, BI, and you talk to them about quality, and they believe everything's fine. They say, we do it, and we're doing a great job. Thank you very much. Okay. And now you have to try. What I really like to do is because the DMBOK is just telling me what to do, doesn't tell me how, so I don't have to force them to do it my way. I can just say, can you please show me these documents? Have you got them? And so we interact with them differently to try to avoid the defense stance that people may take. All right. Yeah, Hisham, you do find that certain people, and I get into scenarios where there's certain people, 2 or 3 people, they have a way of work and they've defined it between themselves. And with that type of scenario, I rate them as a level 2 to say that they have a minimum process defined, but it is not adhered and accepted by the entire organization. So that score is where you'll get people having their own controls. And when they do that, I quickly say, that's really nice. We'd like to use it somewhere else. Please, can you share me share with me the procedures. Nisha is talking and Hisham is talking about shadow IT. We actually found one department, they were getting really cross with the BI department, so it was shadow BI. They hired a few consultants, they didn't really want to say anything. When they came out, they were saying, shucks, we're at this level, we're doing such an amazing job. And I said, okay, that's great. Show me where things are defined, show me where everything is. And then it wasn't as good, as well defined as what they were doing a good job. Let's not take that away from them. The work that they were coming out was great, but the definition and the procedures were lacking and not there to be able to share with other departments. All right. So yes, shadow IT, shadow BI can creep in all over the place, and they may be doing a good job, but have they got processes, procedures? Have they got best practices, good practices, emerging practices? We don't know, and we're trying to get evidence of that. And in some cases, you'll say, sure, this person's doing a really great job. Why don't we take some of those processes and bring it into our world? Okay, so you can help overcome some of those issues and some of those challenges that you're finding. Okay, so let me just pause and see if there are any further questions. Would anyone like to ask a question? Any observations? I'd love to hear from you. Yes, Hisham.
Yeah, sorry, it's me again.
No problem.
Just a quick question. Sometimes when you go to a business and you would say, well, based on this maturity level, I see that, for example, you need a data governance department, and they wouldn't have a data governance. So that means that some of their structure will have to change, maybe to employ new resources or whatever the agreement going to be. How is that perceived with the business, and do they become defensive or not?
So I actually asked this question on our first session yesterday. Hisham, one company I went into, when I went in there, the CEO said, can I please explain something? The way that I have experienced maturity assessments up until now is that it's a money generating game. So you come in here, you tell me how bad I am, all the things that I need, and you can generate revenue and work and projects and things like that. So in some cases, there's a level of suspicion as to what you are recommending. What you will find, what I have found is, as I go through these results and I say to people, can you see what's happening in these different areas? Are you in agreement? So I try not to go too quickly. And I say, can you see that we are battling? Here are, for example, the variances that we have the biggest problem with. Can you see the differences of opinion? And they keep on saying, yes, we agree, that's right, that's right. So you're waiting for that's right, certain level. And then we start saying, when we get to our priorities, and you need it to be at a level 3 or a 4, that's when these things start popping up. Get your strategy, get this thing defined, and then you can start building that roadmap with them. And then you're coming across less as you're trying to sell business or make money out of this whole engagement. So I find I have to be really sensitive about that. And maybe I'm oversensitive because a CEO challenged me to tell me that you consultants are all the same. You're just trying to find ways of making money out of me.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, great. So we will make the materials available, and we'll send them to you. We'll just get a list. If you send me an email, I'll send you the list, and you can have the resources that we have that I've made here. And of course, I'd love if you got any feedback or any comments, just share that with me. I'll help you fix the Excel spreadsheets, but they're yours. You can use them and go with it.
Can I ask a question before we go?
Yes, of course you can.
Yeah,
Of
because
course you can.
it's the first. I was on the course last week. It's the first time that I'm attending this session. I was actually in a meeting for this, man. I almost missed it now, but I asked him if I can leave. So this DMMA information that you went through now, the
Yeah.
seminar, the course that you're talking about, that you mentioned, a 2-day course or something like that, or another
Yes.
course that
So
this is part of. What is it called?
okay, so what Wesley, we do a 3-day data governance, but what I found, and it's for certification, what I found people saying is, you know what, you're going to a certain level, but I need more. I need to know exactly how to drive the spreadsheet, how to interpret the results, and how to present it back to my business. And so for that, we've created a 2-day how to mature data. And we go through the process of setting up a program, an executive presentation. How would you present to the execs? How would you choose, get the data owners to choose people and things like that, to just help you set it up properly and help you set it up correctly.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm supposed to do my exam. That's why I'm asking the question. So I'm busy preparing myself for my exam, but I want to complete the specialist exams. And I spoke to Debbie about about the other stuff. So I'm trying to consolidate all this information and trying to find out what do I have to attend after this,
So Wesley,
and like how does this thing fit into the long?
So what I'd recommend is don't do this one to get past the certification. There's very few questions on the DMMA in the data governance certification, 1 or 2. So it's not worth it for your certification, but it's certainly worth it for you in terms of setting up a data management organization, understanding where you're at, and starting to build a roadmap.
That is the other reason why I want to do it, because I have to. I'm actually in a situation where I'm attending a lot more meetings and I have to do presentations. So something like that, we actually have to present. I have to do presentations and I have to speak to executive level, like put sort of people in that sort of level. So that's kind of important as well. I mean, you need to know how to read things and how to explain things and how to set up the broader vision and stuff like that. So I'm trying. That's why I'm asking. Like,
So Wesley,
I'm
also
my
what we
do.
Also what we do is we actually, what I found is getting a DMMA going for the first time, you actually have to spend 1 day with your stewards that are going to answer it, educating them about the DMBOK and the deliverables. So I've got a PowerPoint training material that allows you to go through the DMBOK and explain it to them and get some of that terminology. There's a 1-day PowerPoint presentation to go through that. And then there's another 2-3 hour session where you explain why you measure, what the dimensions are, and things like that. So there's a lot of that material there as well in terms of being able to educate people to be ready to answer your questions.
Yeah, that is the point of the situation with us. Like, it's not only about us doing the job or setting up, like being part of the strategic or the roadmap meeting, but it's the training aspect, the support. The after effect, like educating people, it's like a big part of the process, because people need to understand why we're doing it and what it's about. Sometimes they don't understand how to do things properly, like how to design things, why it's so important. All those those base, the base part of it, man. It's difficult sometimes to deal with some of the people. They don't understand what's important.
And what I like to do is we have like a 20-minute session with the execs to discuss the scope. What would you like me to assess? Okay. Do you want me to assess everything? Do you want me to assess the operational side, the planning, the strategy? What areas would you like me to assess? And I'm able then to switch things off and on. But it's really important to explain to people to say, okay, probably when you start, you're going to be stronger on operations and low on planning, low on strategy, things like that, and policies and procedures. So you're going to be low on control and things like that, but you're going to be high on the doing side. Okay. And so you also have to start with the executive level in terms of saying, well, what's important to you right now? And how do I give you, what's the sort of, where do you feel the problem is? And then how do I make sure I target that problem and give you the answers that you're looking for?
Yeah. Sometimes I find that, like I'm working in a consulting firm now. The previous company that I worked at, it's different in my new company where they really focus on like technical strategy and like all these things that's in DMBOK. They practice it like to the level, like it's almost like the temple, like the Bible, like.
Yeah.
But the previous organization, like they knew what they wanted. They had all the resources, and they had like all these. They had the business and stuff like that going, but they didn't know how to apply things properly, and I found it difficult to sometimes work with them because they didn't sometimes even know what they wanted and things like that. But they knew what they wanted like in the long term, and we had to explain to them what I don't know, like I don't want to talk too long, but that's why I'm doing this is because I've noticed that it's like there is a difference between people doing this thing right and people doing it wrong, and the intention and stuff like that, and why are they doing it, and all sorts of other stuff, man. So it just like I don't want to talk long, but so that's why I'm so no problem, man.
Fantastic. We love to help you. Yes, Hisham, your hand is still up. Is that an old hand or a new hand?
No, I can replace my hand. It's fine. No, I'm just attending your course in March for the data governance and data quality. I was hoping that I will get some of this, but apparently it's a different course.
We do. What I do is I do leave the templates there in the files directory. So I'll just quickly show you and then take it and then you can go with it from there. All right. So some people can start running with it without any course, and others would like some more detail.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
As I try to keep all of my governance templates there and available, and you guys can run with it and take whatever you want and go for it.
Where do you keep it available? Where do you keep your?
This is Wesley. So when we do the DG course and the DQ course, there'll be folders in that canvas, and in there'll be folders for DMMA, for business data strategy, for all the different things, policies and procedures. We try to keep as much of that stuff away.
But the thing is, like the document that you mentioned now early on, that you said that we can request.
Yes.
Is that only available for the people that's attending the course, or it's
No.
Because I got lost. I came in a bit late, man. So I just heard the one guy asking about it. So I didn't hear everything, but I just know that you were going through the slides and things like that. And you said at least one of the Excel spreadsheets or something like that. We can sort of like look at least. And must we send you a mail for that one?
Yes, please. I put my mail on there. If you send it to me, then I'll send you all the stuff back.
Okay.
And for example, when I finally do the LinkedIn post and Debbie talks about the recording, you can also say, please send me templates, and then Debbie will make sure you get them.
Okay. Thanks, man.
All righty.
Thanks very much.
Excellent.
For that, credit to Howard and for sharing all of that, even if you're going to share it on social media. So just a polite note. That's all.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Billy.
Cheers, Drew. Look forward to seeing you again, buddy.
Yeah.
Cheers, everybody.
Waiting for you.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.